I felt like I was really pleased with the response for the one that I helped conduct. Um, yeah, we had a lot more participation this time, and so that was encouraging. I felt like people, yeah, yeah, it was good. I think the time change is definitely a good thing on that to do it a little bit later. I think people have a harder time with those earlier. Yeah. Do we, how's our response been on the second survey so far? Do we have you had a good? Curious. I just didn't know if anybody passed anything on. I know. Okay, that's good. That's great. Okay. Okay. Awesome. That's funny. That came up in my group too as something that was actually an appeal in Hooper that there is no center line. You drive wherever you want unless the car's coming the other way. Yeah. Yeah. Cyclists going. I when I used to run a lot, right down the middle of the road, because yeah, yep, yeah, yeah. It's easier on your joints if you.
Some epic commercial community, but that's just not going to happen. We don't have the Yeah.
Force somebody to bring a business.
Glad there was a major commercial property owner on there. And he kind of indicated that, you know, because we asked him what was his intentions, and he didn't really say, but, you know, a credit union, a small, yeah, coffee shop, internet. Happen should really just benefit the citizens here, because I don't see it. Someone brought up a Chick-fil-A, but I just don't see that happening.
Actually looked that up last night. I'm like, what would it cost me to bring a Chick-fil-A franchise down there? Well, it's $10,000 to initially get into it, but then, you know, there's a lot of work involved. I personally wouldn't do it, but if anybody wants to, I would frequent it. So. Yeah.
But the point that somebody brought up was like, you don't have time to see how people can prefer to go down the, yeah, people duck hunting or whatever. And they've got to get back up in the road to go lunch together afterwards. So this will be nice to capture that. I have to go shooting. I have to go shooting with my buddies like every Saturday. Afterwards, we go to like the nearest subway, you know. So we didn't go shooting out here, but if we did, then we would have had to go up to two different cities.
That would be a good thing.
Is it? That was so nice. Really?
Well, self-serving. I brought.
Just kidding. I'm glad you did, because I always get so dry.
Have some Tic Tacs too. So
So then on the focus group, the number one was Parks and Trails.
okay.
And then you pointed out, you know, the Get Involved tab on our homepage. You click on that and then you think of all of those maps that are here. And you really need to get our citizenry somehow, through social media or something, aware that these maps are here only until California, April, April.
Yeah, we've got to do something to get the word out on that, because I don't think people know.
And so, you know, just I was trying to set an example. So, but the Parks and Trails, some of the things that I picked up on the improve the bike and walking spaces along the roadside. So basically, you create a bike lane.
State road, like, can we even do anything with that?
500 south and 5900 west.
Those are kind of the main.
To get
Because I mean, there's kind of the main two, there's definitely 500. And obviously, I'm not the process, but is that just like a request we put into UDOT, or how does that work? Whatever it is, I mean, that's definitely worth pursuing. Because something that somebody pointed out too was there's like a break in the sidewalk. So if their kids walking to school, Hooper Elementary, there's a spot where there's no sidewalk there. So it'd be nice if that road was widened with the proper, bike lane, sidewalk, whatever needs to happen. Yeah, to make that a continuous safety, especially if we want to develop that out for commercial. Ideally, a business can get pays for the stuff he throws in, but.
We had business right east of that all along there. We just have to do it smart. I think. No, I don't think so either. I just think we have to, I think that that's some of the concerns. Yeah. Just seems like safety is something that's coming up a lot in the groups and in the responses and stuff. And so I think if we can kind of put people's mind at ease that there's a way to do this and do it responsibly so that our kids are safe and that there's not a lot. I don't know. I don't like that intersection there the way it is with Sinclair right now, just because you've got both of those exits coming out of Sinclair. And if like you're heading north and trying to come off of 5500 and make a left-hand turn, it's kind of confusing. There's a lot you've got to watch. And at certain times of day, there's a lot of traffic going up and down 5500. So I don't know, maybe a roundabout. I have no idea. I don't know what would solve that, but yeah. I was not a big fan at first, but I've learned to like them a little bit more. I don't really like the double roundabouts. They confuse me. But
West Point and Layton and up in Syracuse, they have them on like almost every turn.
that's the only bad part about roundabouts is people don't understand. So
So the other one thing that people brought up on the West Coast is they thought, what about having like putting art along the parkways, like these sculptures or
monuments to or something like that, like a little.
would change out.
Oh.
And so like if they've got a local artist that wants to display their work, but they could have placed it to 8 months.
As long as the city's not responsible for damage to it, storing it, or that sort of thing. That'd be a great committee to have. If they paid a fee to have it put in and put back out, and Jared has manpower for that, whatever. I mean, it depends on where it is and the access to the trail, right? You want, usually it seems like that's better left for the city to access,
Two different locations to ruin it for. Yep. Yeah, on the tables. It was several months ago. I think they fixed it now, but it was, I don't know. I had a couple of questions just because, there's these items that the applicant's supposed to address on the back of the application. those were not included on either of these applications that I saw. So I'd like to ask about that and just see. I just feel better if we make sure that they're addressed so that if there were a problem down the road, we know.
Which one was it?
Both on Tanya Miller and Jay Jones. We usually have a page in there that addresses those, and I didn't see that in either of those two. So something to. I noticed that too, but I don't know why. I don't know if they were saying, yes, there's a problem, or. Those for each of you, just in case, because it was not 2020, it was 2019.
Yeah, he makes reference to.
Oh, I got one too. Thank you.
Amanda took care of this all.
Well, Bryce provided the water. It was the least I could do. It did take me a little bit more time. Yes, yes. Yeah. I also. I've got that too, just in case. I did. I did. There's no frontage, so. And I do have the minutes from that meeting that I also brought, just. So, in case. He just barely bought it, so I don't think it's been updated on the county yet. Leland, oh. Double check me, because I don't know.
Well, this is what we're gonna do, they just, as far as it's here.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, Shauna helped me with that. I emailed her. I was like, do you have a copy of that plat?
Any questions on the Christensen Fairway? I read through all of that. I thought everything, other than I had a question right here about the updated ties in section 409, if this is.
Yeah, so just adding these up from this point all the way down with the fringes of these, the rows between that. It's 661 where the initial only shows 649. So it's just. So it must, it's basically it's within not even 20 feet, because this is 60.
7 o'clock. Sure.
We'd like to welcome you out to our Planning Commission. Is this working? Shauna, do I have to eat this thing? Okay, I'm in. We want to welcome you to Planning Commission meeting tonight. It is 7 o'clock, and so we want to start on time. We appreciate all the attendance that we have here. We hope everyone feels welcome. We'll open our meeting with a reverence and a pledge of allegiance. Commissioner Prince has offered to give our reverence, and Commissioner Greener is going to lead us in the pledge of allegiance.
Our Father in heaven, we come before thee with gratitude for all of the many blessings that thou hast given us. We are thankful to be able to meet together tonight to discuss the needs of our city. We're grateful for the leadership that we have, and we're grateful for the opportunity to serve. We thank thee for all of those who have taken time to participate in this meeting, and we ask that thou would please help us to be in tune with the things that are shared. Please help us to be able to listen sincerely and to make decisions that are founded in wisdom and in truth. We ask that thou would please help us to be aware of others in our midst that are in need of special blessings, and ask that thou would please help us to know how best we can help them. We ask that thy spirit will be with us throughout this night, and we ask that thou would please bless our country. Please bless the leaders of our country and help them to make good decisions. And we say these things humbly in the name of thy beloved Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Okay. How's that? Better? I'm trying. First item on our agenda tonight is to review the general plan work session minutes, which were held March 9th. Have the commissioners had a chance to read over those minutes?
Yes.
And do you see any need for any changes? Okay, so I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll motion that we approve the general plan work session minutes on March 19th, 2021.
March 9th.
March 9th.
March 9th, I'm sorry.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
And the second item on the agenda is the Planning Commission meeting minutes from March 11th. Again, have you had a chance to review those, commissioners?
Yeah.
Do you find anything that needs to be changed or amended?
No.
So seeing no need to change anything, let's have a motion to approve those.
A motion that we approve the planning commission meeting minutes from March 11th, 2021.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Prince. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Commissioner Greener. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, this is a public hearing. The first item on our city business tonight is a conditional use permit request for an oversized structure for Jay Jones on his property located at 5983 West, 4600 South. Is there a representative for for this? Okay, would you like to step forward? Give us your name and address, please.
Jay Jones, and I'm at new address to me, 49 or 5983 West, 4600 South.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Mr. Jones regarding his application?
I have just a couple. On here, there's a spot where they ask you to address the issues, traffic problems, fencing, business operation, safety issues, pollution, use of structure, noise, odors, easements, parking, and design. And I didn't see where those had been addressed. Are there any issues with any of those items?
No, I think not. We would like to kind of tuck it back in the corner best we can. I don't think there's going to be noisy and hopefully it won't be smelly. What were the other options that?
So it mentions traffic problems, fencing, business operation, safety issues, pollution, use of structure, noise, odors, easements, parking, or design. If there's any issues with any of those.
No, I think
Okay.
Say on your application, Jay, that you're going to use it just to keep your cars and trucks out of the weather?
yeah,
Or are you
It's-
planning on putting in a concrete floor in it? Okay. You also stated that there'll be no plumbing and no electricity at this time.
I'd like to stub in the electricity because somewhere down the road, I'm going to want a garage door opener and that lights.
Uh-huh,
It'll just be my toy box to work on my old truck and
yeah.
that of my wife's
I
hair.
can't imagine you not wanting to have power out there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that
but
would be hard.
Right now, it's just not in the budget. I know probably next spring, we'll come knock on your door again and ask.
So just know that if you do build the structure without any power, then when you want to install power, you need to come back and get another permit for that. Okay? Not going to be used for business,
Trying to be retired.
trying to retire. Okay. Commissioners, do you have any other questions for Mr. Jones? Okay, thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. This is a public hearing. Is anyone here that would like to make a public comment regarding this application for Mr. Jones's oversized structure? Seeing none, then we'll close the public comment. Commissioners, any other discussion that you have on this? Okay. If not, then we would entertain a motion.
I'll motion that we approve a conditional use permit for an oversized structure for Jay Jones at 5983 West, 4600 South.
We have a motion to approve the conditional use permit for Mr. Jones. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
And Mr. Greener has seconded that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That conditional use permit has been approved. All right. Our next item on our agenda is also a conditional use permit for an oversized structure for a 1,728 square foot building for Tanya Miller. Is there a representative here? Okay. Commissioners, do you have questions for Ms. Miller?
Just the same questions that I had for the previous applicant. I didn't notice where those had been addressed. I did notice that you had circled easements or crossed it out on here. So I wasn't sure if there was an issue with that or any of those other items, and I can read those again if you need me to.
Talked about pushing the backward approach, but our property line goes back a little bit originally told. So we're not going to be.
Okay, were there any issues on any of the other items that I had read before? Okay, thank you.
So are you saying that there's a question between you and the neighbor regarding your property line?
Oh, no, we were just trying to push it back.
Uh-huh.
The property line behind our fence. No, that's a field back.
Okay.
Are you saying that you decided to move the shop further forward to avoid issues? Is that what you're saying?
No, for our property line, there's a canal,
Okay.
and we're actually, so 7 feet on the other side. Want to cut off fence line, 4 feet. That's. They didn't, when they first built the subdivision, they didn't want to, they didn't want the canal running of,
So your property line's further back than you thought it was. Okay.
Rain's here. No.
Watch out for the train. Any other questions? Okay, we'll use him as an example. Will everyone else please silent their electronic devices? Thank you. Do we have any other questions for Tanya at this time?
Electricity, so I'm sure you obtained a permit for that, the electricity.
Yeah, you'll need to get a permit for that. Anything else for Tanya? Okay, thank you. Appreciate your input. Is there anyone here that would like to make public comment regarding her request for a conditional use permit? Or online? Okay, seeing none, then we'll close the public comment. Any discussion here on this? Then we can entertain a motion on the request for the conditional use permit.
I'll propose that we approve the conditional use permit for the oversized structure for Tanya Miller at 5676 West, 5725 South.
We have a motion to approve this conditional use permit from Commissioner Greener.
I'll second.
Have a second from Commissioner Prince. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you. That's been approved. Okay. Item on the agenda is a public hearing for a request for a rezone from Ryan Fisher at approximately 4965 South, 6300 West. This rezone is requesting from an R1 to an R2, and it is 8.39 acres. Is there a representative here for Mr. Fisher?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, yes, I'm sorry, I'm out of town, so I am attending virtually.
Okay. So you'll need to state your name and address, even though you're virtual.
Okay, so my name is Ryan Fisher. My address is 5261 South, 6250 West in Hooper.
I believe at this point in time, Ryan, we're going to have a presentation from Jared Hancock, our Public Works Director.
Okay, very good.
Okay, so what you're seeing here is a highlighted red property. This is land use map and you can, they're indicated. Current zoning, currently zoned to R1. And map it as density. R2's.
Okay. Thank you. We appreciate you helping us understand that information. Commissioners, do you have questions for Mr. Fisher?
Ryan, we wish you were here in person. Can you hear me? Are you muted? Oh, he's muted. You have to unmute yourself, Ryan.
Sorry about that. Yes, I can hear you, and I apologize. I wish I were there as well.
No, that's fine. No worries. We can still conduct this way. Why do you want to zone it R2?
So originally in the master plan, it was zoned for future use as R2. Also, the landowner directly to the south of me he received R2 zoning. I believe it was just about a year ago in 2020, and just to have the ability to, if needs be, to do some half-acre lots in there. This is actually some property that I'd like to someday build on myself, and just have a little bit of space back there. And so that's kind of what I'm looking for, is to be able to do that. With the cost of land right now, to be very honest, I can't afford to buy the whole thing and just sit on it. And so that's kind of the reason for the request.
What would be your time frame?
Honestly, I'd probably like to get started sometime next year, if possible, for building something there for myself. But that so much of that, I just kind of have to wait and see what happens. That's kind of a tentative plan, but I don't have a firm plan yet.
As I looked at that piece, you're completely surrounded by 1 acre lots, and that's kind of the feel of that particular area of Hooper. I totally understand your reasoning, but maybe I'll just throw out a couple other ideas for you. I've known you, Ryan, for a long time, as well as some of the other people here on the commission. In fact, when I coached your son in baseball, I still use that little incident we had as a teaching example. I think it was one of the most greatest things. If I had time now, I'd tell it to everybody, but I won't. But you know what I'm talking about.
I remember that well, Bryce.
Yeah, those great times. We're kind of in a little bit of a tough situation here. We have the resolution that why we have the general plan open, that we were not going to do any rezoning. There's been people prior to you that have, requested rezones that we have, basically told to wait. I'd like to give you a little bit of a challenge. Just two examples in my immediate neighborhood. One of the subdivisions is fairly new, and of course where I live is fairly old. Both homes were on 1 acre lots. The one right across from me sold they had 60 people come and view that in a 4-hour period of time, and they sold it that day. The other one around the corner, it's a development Dave Rawson did, all 1 acre lots, a little cul-de-sac. It's the smallest house in the subdivision, and it sold for over $700,000. And it's not a huge house; it's a nice house. I guess my thing is acre lots. There's a demand for them. People want them. I think we kind of get caught up in this half acre lot. I want to maximize my investment and things, but I think you could do just as well and not, and maybe even better by marketing something that's fairly unique. But there again, we're in a little bit of a tight spot here where, if we show favoritism to you, what about the other people that we've, told no to? So it's nothing personal, but I think Hooper, the majority of the people like to maintain that rural feel. And I think you have an opportunity to maybe be a trailblazer and do something different and go against the status quo and have a unique product. That's just, a suggestion I thought of that I think you're up for the challenge and, you might want to explore that. But that's kind of my feeling right now. I don't know what the other commissioners think or want to add to that.
I'll say a couple of things. Ryan, I think very highly of you. This is Commissioner Prince. I know you're a very principled person. I have a lot of respect for you. And so I hope you can understand where I'm coming from on this. We did approve, the Planning Commission, the City Council, we're in support of this resolution that we've put in place. And I don't know, I'm assuming you've seen a copy of that resolution and the reasons for it. I know that our general plan currently allows for us to review things at a static point in time so that we can come up with something that's going to be in the best interest of our community. And you had mentioned in your application, there was a couple things I just wanted to address. As far as the zoning change that happened with the Ma property, that was actually in 2019. September 12th, I think, was the date that happened. The majority of the current Planning Commission was not serving at that time, so I can't comment really on the reasoning for that rezone. But I did drive through that area, and it looks like most of the area is comprised of acre lots or larger. The R2 overlay that's on there is an overlay, and those are things that we're currently looking at right now with this review of the general plan. We've sent out some surveys, and we've asked for some community input. And I know that you had mentioned in here, as part of the recent survey, that over 80% of Hooper would like it to be a place where their children can build and live. I'm not sure if it mentioned building in there, but I know it did say that, there was a percentage of the residents that would like to have their children be able to live in Hooper. I'd like to just also reference the survey, some other numbers on there that will kind of hopefully help you see where we're coming from. 79.86% of the responses that we received on the survey agree or strongly agree that Hooper should encourage single-family homes on larger lots. So that's a subjective thing. What do we consider larger lots? We have a second survey that just came out that we're asking that question. We kind of want to see what people feel the lot size in Hooper should be comprised of mainly. And so that's something that we're waiting to get back. And it may be that this type of a development will fit nicely with what Hooper wants. But the truth of it is we don't know exactly yet. And I feel like it wouldn't be fair to the citizens or to the other developers that have wanted to move forward with their developments if we push something like this through right now. Another thing from the survey, 76.97% would say that the rate of growth in Hooper City over the past 5 years is fast or too fast. We've got a lot of developments that have already been approved and a lot of rezones that have already happened. And so that's one of the reasons that we're taking this pause, to be able to kind of assess and make sure that we're on target for where we want our city to be. Overall, I think the commission and the city council have a sincere desire to listen to the input and the feedback that we're getting from the citizens of Hooper and to come up with a general plan that at least the majority of people can be happy with and they can feel like they've been listened to. And so for that reason, at this time, I don't feel that I would be in favor of approving this. But I'd like to hear anything, you know, if you have any comments on any of the things that I brought up, I'd sure be happy to hear those.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. So I think the two that have spoken and myself, we're probably have very similar opinions about what we want Hooper to be. And you know, I'm very appreciative of the service that all of the commissioners are giving, because I know it's you can't pay people enough sometimes to give public service. Here's just a couple of thoughts that I have. First of all, I have a strong interest, a vested interest in how Hooper turns out. I plan on staying in Hooper. I'd like my children to be able to someday live in Hooper as you know, as they get older and have families of their own. I don't think that's much of a reality right now, because there's just not there's not an availability of lots. The only reason that I ended up purchasing this 8 acres is because I've been looking for a year solid to try to find something that I thought might, you know, give me an opportunity to build down the road in a different location. Haven't been able to find anything. And so that's part of the reason this whole thing kind of got started for me, and wanted to kind of capitalize on this opportunity. So I understand wanting to be cautious with what people do here, because I also have that same interest. I think it's worth noting that I lived for 18 years on an acre lot in Hooper before I lived on my current half-acre lot. And I sincerely believe that the answer to what people want to see Hooper become is not 1 acre lots solely. In other words, I think 1 acre lot opportunities should continue to happen, but I don't think that's the answer. If you just put in 1 acre lot subdivisions everywhere, in my opinion, that'll give you 50% of the people who don't realize how big an acre is and what it takes to maintain and care for an acre lot. I learned that kind of the hard way after moving on to an acre lot. And I think if you drive around and look at some of the half-acre subdivisions, I think if they're done well, I think that they can look very, very nice, and I think that they add value to the city. And by the way, in my opinion, anymore, a half-acre lot is a very big lot. If you look around, there are so many places in West Haven, just up the road, that are building 1/4 acre lots, 1/3 acre lots, townhomes and apartments. And so anyway, I think you were right what you said about, you know, a lot size is subjective, and so I think we want to be careful about that. And then maybe to Bryce's comment about doing something different, I think I put that in the paperwork a little bit, that I would like to do something different to make it a little bit more unique, maybe not quite so cookie cutter with the way things are done. As again, it's a place that I'd like to build eventually. Whenever that is, I don't know yet, as I stated. But anyway, so I agree with, I think, the sentiment and what we want to be, but I don't think 1 acre lots is the answer. If you drive around, there's a lot of 1 acre lots that I think devalue other lots around it, and also, you know, parts of the city that don't look as nice. And I want it to be a place where it still has the Hooper feel. I've lived here for almost 30 years. My wife was born and raised in Hooper, has never lived anywhere else. And so anyway, those are kind of my comments. And then also, again, I thought it was a year ago that the land neighbor to my south was approved, but it sounds like it was a 1.5 years ago. Nonetheless, those have been approved for R2, and we do share the same boundary line. And although I know what you've been doing as a commission, I've followed that closely. I also know that I believe, if you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it says in there, you know, that it doesn't say you're restricting, it's saying that you still have the option to rezone to R2 or to rezone, period. Is that correct? Did I read that correctly?
You did read that correctly.
Okay.
I've got the resolution here, just to reference. In the last paragraph, it does say, be it resolved by the City Council of Hooper City that Hooper City's general position is that rezones should be limited during the time it is updating its general plan based on the above issues of concern. This resolution is not to be interpreted as prohibiting the submission of applications for rezone, but is intended to give general guidance to the Planning Commission if such applicants are submitted. So you're correct. It does not, with absolute authority, prohibit us from hearing applications, from you making application, or from applications being approved. But at the same time, we have to take careful consideration for the concerns that resolution was drafted based on. And we've had a pretty good response on these surveys and people being involved. I mean, when you look at the percentage of people that actually go out and vote in elections, we've had a pretty good turnout on these surveys so far. And like I said, I'm not somebody that feels necessarily that we should never allow any half-acre lots or anything like that. I just feel like we have an obligation to let people express what they're wanting for our city, and not just what people's desires are, but also to take the time to look at the wear and tear on our current infrastructure, and maybe just kind of slow things down for a minute until we get some of that information back. We've got a lot that's already been slated to go in that hasn't even started yet. And so I think that's part of the concern. And I hope that people can be patient with us while we complete this process and give people a chance to voice their opinions and to feel like they're heard. One of the things I hear frequently is that, people that serve the city don't listen to us. And that's not the case, but we don't want to send that message. We want to make sure that people feel like they have a chance to comment and to have their views heard before we make any decisions.
Yeah, I understand that. Do you care if can I make just a couple more observations real quick?
Sure.
Okay, so the other thing I would mention is, as I'd ask the commission to consider that this is a very small piece of land. This is not a 50 or a 60 home subdivision that we're talking about. It is a very small piece of land. It is literally bordering another piece that was approved as R2. And because it was approved, if he chose to start developing it tomorrow, I believe that he could. And also, I did meet with the representatives from the city, with the mayor. Jared was there. We had several other people. And as far as the infrastructure, it was made very clear, and Jared can confirm this, but that all of the infrastructure is there, that it was planned for many years ago. And so it was told to me that as far as utilities and sewer and power and water, he said there's nothing to be concerned about there. And that was something that was brought up to me fairly clearly. And then also just again, I think just the size of this piece of land, it's a small piece of land. It's not it wouldn't be a lot of homes even if we did move forward with it. And so I think that's something to take into consideration. And also I think you have to look at kind of the demand right now. I understand you guys wanting to be cautious and careful and be very thorough in what you're doing. But also, I mean, in Utah right now, the demand is very high. And I think that plays a part in this. And so if you delay too long, I mean, these farmers are selling their land at the top of the market. And so I think that's something to maybe take into consideration as far as the cost and so forth. So anyway, I just wanted to mention those things.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you. More questions for Mr.
Oh, not a question, maybe just a comment. I appreciate your thoughts, Ryan. Who's right? I don't know who's right, wrong. I think there's some middle ground. I think my main concern right now, it's maybe not necessarily the rezoning, is even though it's a small piece, you're at a father, and you say if you let your daughter go to the prom when she's 15, and then the next daughter, you don't let her go till she's 16. There's some favoritism there. And I don't want to get caught in that where we've told others no, and we tell you yes. I think that would be unfair, very unfair to them and even unto you. But anyway, that's my big concern with this. Yeah, the infrastructure probably can sustain that. And, but with just showing some nepotism, I want to be cautious. I want to err on that side.
Any other questions?
Okay.
I was just wanted to hear from Jared on the infrastructure issues. Are there any concerns sewer wise or anything?
But as far as we discussed in that meeting, sewer capacity roads, you know, that's yet to be determined. Water. claimed that they had plenty of capacity there.
Any other questions for Mr. Fisher? Okay, Ryan, thank you. We appreciate your input. I'm going to open this up for public comment. If there's anyone here in the room or online who would like to speak up, please step up and give us your name and address, please.
Go ahead and read the public comments that were sent in prior to the meeting first, then I'll let the public.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so this comment is from Dave Taylor. My name is David Taylor. I live directly across the street from Ryan Fisher, property at 4965 South, 6300 West, the property that has been requested to be rezoned. I completely oppose the rezone request and oppose any building on that property. These are the reasons. The property is a deer migration route. Wildlife and waterfowl use that property every year. Owl and hawks relay on the property for food. All the construction will pollute the water way less than 20 yards to the west of this project. The new construction will lower local home and property values. With all new homes being built on 5,900 and 4,000 on the bend, we have no need for more homes. This will destroy our small local roads, increase traffic, and put our kids at risk of being hit by vehicles on the busy roads. We have no need for R2 nor R1 in this property. Hooper is building on each corner. It needs to stop. The Ryan Fisher project must not be approved. Construction on that site will damage waterways, roads, wildlife habitat, wildlife corridors, and make 6300 West unlivable with the mud, dust, and debris from construction. Hooper needs to stop this. Most every home on this road has 2 or more acres with it. Don't change that standard for the love of money. Those of us that live near this property were told the 1.9 acres was for sale where 1 home was to be built. We have been lied to by Mr. Ryan Fisher and Hooper City. Dave Taylor, 4972 South, 6300 West.
Thank you. Do you have any other letters to read in? Okay. Okay. Anyone else have a public comment?
Yeah. Scott Borstra. I live at 4824 South, 6150 West. My question is more based around, I'm wondering how the 1 acre lot idea squares with the city's commitment to incorporate strategies to encourage moderate housing in Hooper. How does that 1 acre parcel square with what you've committed to do today? Because according to this, it says Hooper City adopts the following strategies to encourage landowners and developers to provide housing for moderate income families in the city. The city recognizes that because of the rural nature of its community, the lack of transportation, moderate income housing may look different from large metropolitan areas. And the policies that this council is supposed to incorporate into the city planning is listed here. There's 4 things it says. And I believe that this report was sent to the state. Wasn't this sent to the state?
That's correct.
Yeah. So this is what Hooper City was planning on doing to make more affordable housing for people. So going to 1 acre and opening the general plan to increase the size of lots in Hooper is not in compliance with what Hooper has said they were going to do here.
Scott,
I'm
Mr.
confused.
Sorry, if you wouldn't mind reading
Yeah.
the goals that we
So
sent
here's
in,
the
or I'm happy to do
policies.
it. I have them here too.
Yeah.
So.
So here's the policy that says, the city council and planning commission will consider rezoning to provide for densities more likely to assure the production of moderate income housing and diverse housing units within the city, assuming that means smaller lots. I can't imagine it means bigger lots than what's in the general plan. The next thing it says, the city will create ordinances and regulations that allow for more accessory dwelling units in existing future residential zones. And then the city council and planning commission will create and implement zoning incentives to encourage the construction of low to moderate income units within new developments. Has that happened? Is that where the city is going? Going towards the plan that they've put together here? The fourth thing is the city will apply for or partner with an entity that applies for programs administered by metropolitan planning organization or other transportation agency that provides technical assistance in preserving and creating moderate home housing. So again, is that in line with what you guys are saying here? I reading it and I was thinking this plan for 1 acre lots does not give accessibility to our kids.
Okay, the point of this request tonight is to rezone from an R1 to an R2.
Right.
It has nothing to do with affordable housing.
No?
No.
So you think that,
The point of the request tonight is to do the rezone, which is in conflict with the resolution that we've passed to temporarily withhold changing. We're not saying it can never happen. We're saying it's probably not going to happen at this point in time until our general plan is finalized, which
Okay.
will include affordable housing.
okay, so you're gonna be creating higher density areas in the general plan when you open it up? That's
If
what the
you'll
plan
read the
is?
general plan,
Okay.
it does say that we will have higher density. We've already met some of those
Okay.
criteria. That report that you're reading, we've submitted to the state.
I know that.
And they've accepted it, and our policies will and do incorporate all of those things we said to the state.
Okay,
The point of the request tonight is asking for us to go against the resolution that was passed earlier in 2020 that essentially puts a halt to changing any zonings while we're trying to rewrite our general plan.
so the general plan had half acres allotted to that parcel, right?
There was an overlay that said this possibly could be rezoned R2. And what
Future use.
the planning commission is doing is not going any further with what the overlays said.
Hmm.
If he wanted to develop it today as R1, it's zoned R1 and
Sure.
he can go forward with that.
Yeah.
But to make any zoning changes, our resolution that's in force is telling us that we're holding back. We want to hold back until we can finish our general plan so that we can create a new future general use plan based on surveys within the city and what people want. Do they still want that to have an R2 overlay? Maybe, maybe not. But right now, it's an R1, and our resolution says that we need to look very closely to that.
It sounds to me like you're backpedaling on what you've committed to the state on for
I'd
lot
like to
sizes.
address that if
That's what
I
it
mean-
sounds
Go
like.
ahead,
to me.
ladies first.
I have a copy of this here and I just. Okay. I just would like to read the full part of what was submitted to the state. So you read the strategy and then it asks, please state the municipality's goal associated with this strategy. So the strategy I'm referencing here, and I don't want to get too far out into the field here, but you mentioned the city council and planning commission will create and implement zoning incentives to encourage the construction of low to moderate income units in new developments. How is the municipality, what's their strategy? The goal is to create potential opportunities for moderate income housing by offering incentives to developers and landowners that will benefit the community. What specific outcomes are we hoping for? Moderate income housing would be provided. Landowners and developers would benefit and community as a whole would benefit. Please describe how the municipality has monitored this. So it goes on to talk about, we're looking into things such as TDR, transfer of developmental rights. I don't know if you're familiar with that and I don't want to get too far into that here, but that's not something that's set in stone, but it's something we're looking into. We're trying to come up with ways that we can preserve what we have and respect what the community wants and also fulfill the requirements from the state. Another thing was the accessory dwelling units. Our ordinances have changed so that we now allow those. They can be attached, they can be detached. People can have a renter live on their property. That before was not allowed. So we've complied with that. We've partnered with Wasatch Front Regional Council. That was another thing that we said that we would do. They're guiding us through this process to help us navigate these things. So we are doing things. We're actively looking at that. As far as affordable housing, whether it's a half acre lot, an apartment, you can look at the ones on 4,000 and if you call and you find out what the rent is, it's not affordable. My mortgage is less than what those homes or those apartment buildings are. The reality is we are having an issue here, and we're trying to be creative so that we can find that balance in respecting
I
what our
have
community
noticed
has.
that those
So-
things that you're mentioning,
Mhm.
I have noticed that, and that does help for sure. But there is a lack of lots available for my kids. They can't live here. So I think the problem is same thing with other people
Right.
live in Hooper as well.
Even with, and I don't want to argue with you, I just,
No.
with, even if those lots were half-acre lots or third-acre lots, they still would not fall under what is considered affordable housing. And if you go up, you can look on there and the criteria is
know.
on there.
I know, I read it.
So it's something that I just think there's two separate issues here. And so,
But going to an acre, not going to be more affordable than a half acre. So
but
that's-
either
that's all I
one
have to
just
say.
won't fall into that category. That's all I want to point out. But I appreciate your comments, and we are trying.
I just like to make a couple comments. You outlined 4 or 5 things there. Things take time to develop. Just because they're written down doesn't mean they're going to be accomplished in a year or two. It's going to take some time. But there are certain areas in Hooper that half-acre or quarter-acre lots don't mix. It's not who we are. It's not intended. There's some property that's just not developable for whatever reason. So we got to be cautious in trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. Like Amanda said, I totally agree. Half-acre lots, smaller lots do not equate affordable housing. So my question is, who created the problem? That's something to think about. Why are they so much money? Now we have to deal with it as a community and a council, this problem that was not created by us. We're doing our best, and we will, through these accessory dwelling units and those things. But you have to really look, why is it so expensive? And who is at the hand of it? It's not us. We're just trying to do our best to accommodate those so kids can live here. But shoot, I don't know if I could afford to live in Hooper if I had to move here right now. It probably wouldn't be a possibility. Anyway.
Any other comments from our commission? Public comments?
Natalie Civic, South West. I just wanted to address this comment about the infrastructure was approved many, many years ago. Many years ago, 5 years ago, could be 30 years ago, who knows? Or they didn't know back then, how much growth there's going to be at this time. So maybe it would have handled it back, but I doubt it will handle it now. I too agree with the commissioners that the pause, we should honor what we've told, what has been passed. I can tell you that several, I will say more than several, majority, I watch social media very closely, and the majority of people are just absolutely disgusted and embarrassed about what's going on with the city. Somebody's made the comment about the perception that we have the opportunity. We do have the opportunity to speak, but I can tell you the majority, again, is always saying, yeah, come down here and speak, but nobody listens to us. I think it was 2 months ago where something was passed at the city council. We all stood up and walked out, and we were all just disgusted because the city always asks, what do you want? What do you want? Here's a survey. Here's a survey. We tell you, we ask you, we beg you, plead with you, not you, city council. And for some weird reason, the citizens just aren't listened to. We're just not. And I will tell you that social media has used the word the city as a joke. Don't even bother. Why do we bother and saying anything? Because nobody listens. So the last point I want to make is it might be a small piece of property, 8 acres, could, if you let it go to a half-acre lots, equals to 16 more houses down here. Could, maybe not, could, has the potential. So I would just ask the commission to honor what has been passed already, put a pause on this.
Thank you. Other public comment, please?
Chris Paulson, 5820 West, 3800 South. But having been on the council that passed the resolution, I just wanted to make sure that citizens that are in attendance and that are listening understand what that resolution was intended to do based on the council's perception and based on my understanding. The resolution, originally the Planning Commission submitted to the council a moratorium movement that through state statute couldn't proceed longer than 6 months, or it would be in conflict with the state code. Because of that, they passed it at 9 months. That was in conflict with state code. We had to, as a council, come back and revisit that. And per the Planning Commission's recommendation to us, we decided to do a resolution. In order for a city to prohibit growth or to stop growth in their town, there has to be, according to state code, an eminent problem with multiple things. And in the resolution, we go on to state multiple areas where we see there could be a problem with growth. However, the therefore clause, which is the action clause put in place by my vote and the others that were there, states that the rezone should be limited. Limited does not mean not approved. It means approved in a small amount. So what I've heard from the Planning Commission multiple times this evening is that we're not going to allow anything. That is contrary to the current policy that's set by the City Council. But I just want to make sure that the commissioners are taking that into account. We have no authority in the town of Hooper to stop growth. We have to allow citizens to move forward with their property. We can limit it, we can't stop it. And so I want to make sure that when we're up here representing the city, we're understanding how that resolution was put together, and we're also understanding who voted on that resolution to approve it. And I just hope the commissioners take that into accordance, whether it's for Mr. Fisher or whomever else comes before this commission. We got to make sure the city's compliant, standing in the right ground, and to have everyone that comes up here and we blanket tell them they ain't got a chance, it's going to put us in a bad spot. Make that point.
He has the right to develop right now. Chris?
You want to comment? Want to address it or take it as a comment?
I just want to make sure that I just want to clarify, and maybe you can give me the right direction here, but what the Planning Commission initially put forth was supposed to have been based off of the state code 10-9A-509. And I think there was some confusion in that meeting because some of the council members had cited 10-9A-504. Those two things are different. I don't believe we ever tried to put forth a moratorium specifically. And I'll let you look up the codes if you want. I have them here, but there is a difference between those two things. And I read what was exactly in the resolution. I don't think any of us have said we're 100% denying everything. In fact, I think we've approved one that was a smaller subdivision that wouldn't leave too big of an impact on the city. And so, of course, people are still welcome to apply, but I think they need to be aware that this is the mindset, the general mindset of the city right now. Not necessarily every member of the city council, but what we're getting feedback from. And so that's why we're waiting. That doesn't mean that things won't change in the future, but for right now, that's the general mindset. We're trying to save people time, so.
Public comment, please.
My name is Gayleen Perkins. My husband Lynn and I own the property just north property. It's 1.5 acre. We are completely opposed to it. Moved down there to not have that. If we wanted half-acre lots, smaller little subdivisions, we would have Roy. And that's not what we want. The housing unit to the south of us, north of us, 1 acre piece. And that's what we would like to have happen. You can't stop progress, but you don't have to have small subdivisions in the middle of where people invested, build these nice homes, and then all of a sudden these.
Thank you. We appreciate your comments. Are there any other public comments, either in the room or online? None online? No more in the room? Okay, then we'll close the public comment, return it back to our commissioners for discussion. Any further discussion on this? Okay.
It can't be developed right now. Nothing's saying that it can't be developed the way that it is right now. We're just putting a pause on rezones. So we're just saying not to change it into something that it isn't at this point until we have a time to do a comprehensive study.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Prince, any others?
First on the rezone, you're making a recommendation.
Right.
They're the one, and Carlson's right, they're the ones that passed.
Okay, given that and our guidance from our city attorney, we would entertain a motion on this request for a rezone for Mr. Ryan Fisher.
I'll make the motion that we make the recommendation to not rezone Ryan Fisher's property at 4965 South, 6300 West, 8.39 acres from R1 to R2.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Wilcox to decline this request. Excuse me, Mr. Richards, are we recommending to City Council that it be declined?
Yeah, on a rezone, yes.
Okay, thank you. So we have that motion from Commissioner Wilcox. Do we have a second?
I will second.
And we have a second from Commissioner Greener. All those in favor of declining or recommending to City Council that this be declined?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so that motion has been declined. It's been recommended to City Council that Planning Commission has declined it. Okay, the sixth item on our hearing tonight is a final approval for Christensen Fairway subdivision. This is a one-lot subdivision of 2.2 acres, a nice large lot out at the end of 5500 South. Jared, do you have a presentation for us?
Yes. So here's an overview. The maps showing the there's that. As far as staff, all of the items in the city staff memos have now been completed. Final plat and improvement drawings have been dated. Remaining items, the access easement on and additional right-of-way dedication were updated directly from staff. Final will serve letters have been provided by Taylor West Weber Water and Hooper Irrigation. Has been provided by the Weber Fire Marshal and
So item one, where you say the last two remaining items, which was the access easement regarding the Lenny Wu LLC and Grandma Mac LLC. You say that's been taken care of? And then also the 1.24 feet, was that dedicated to the roadway for road? It was rededicated for roadway as well. So those are the only two items on the memo that needed clarification. And you're saying that those have both been resolved. Okay. Do we have a representative here for the Christensen Fairway subdivision?
Thank you. I'm Steve Austin.
Okay.
Address is 406 North, 5000 West in West Point. So the purpose of the subdivision is to build my personal residence so my kids can grow up, grandma and grandpa, and live on the kind of the family land. So we really appreciate the service you guys do and the time that you spend. You have a difficult job, and we appreciate your time, consideration.
So, the house that's showing there on the plat in the corner, that's your parents' home?
So that's Larry Christensen's, yeah.
That's Larry, okay.
Yep.
And he's your father?
Yeah, he's my father-in-law.
Father-in-law?
Yep.
Okay, well, obviously your name's Austin, sorry.
No, you're okay.
Well, that will be, okay, and I guess we have all of the issues sorted out?
Yeah,
Any
yeah, I
questions?
believe you do. Yeah, we've worked on it for quite a while, so.
Okay. Any other comments? Are you part of the group?
Part of the Creek Road, it's Reeve and Associates, just here to help answer.
Are you the general contractor? Civil engineer, okay. I did have one question, and maybe Jared, you can help us out with it a little bit. It says here, in lieu of curb and gutter construction at this time, because 5500 West is slated to be vastly improved and widened. So we wouldn't ask you to put in curb and gutter along 5500 right now, but we would escrow for those funds. But it says, in lieu of curb and gutter construction at this time, the developer will be required to coordinate with Public Works so that street drainage in front of the lot is adequately addressed. And my question is, when will this coordination take place? Prior to the commencement of any construction, or at the end, post-construction, or during the middle of it?
So that may be a question for Jared as well, but I have spoke with Jared and we have coordinated a lot of that. He's mentioned that we would need to escrow that.
Right,
for
well,
curb and
yeah, we'll
gutter.
need to escrow for curb gutter and sidewalk because of the,
Right,
but we definitely wouldn't want you to build it because of the proposed widening and improvement of 5500.
right. And I think, I mean, as far as placement and kind of coordinating with the road project that's coming,
Uh-huh,
I mean, we're set back enough.
okay.
So those escrowed funds should take care of.
So that coordination for the street drainage of the lot is just going to always kind of be an ongoing thing, I would assume. Is that correct, Jared?
Well, what exists there now was an open drain ditch. And we really didn't want them to, where we're asking them to contribute their funds for those improvements towards our project. Made sense because we don't want them to put something in that we turn around in a year and rip out. So we've basically let them get their driveway, their fire hydrant, that stuff installed so that it's functional, and then we'll just use their money to go towards
So,
minimized what improvements are actually being.
so the drainage in front of that lot will just be accomplished by putting a pipe in so that for a crossing, so they have access in and out of the
It can
lot?
still get into the open drain ditch currently.
Okay. 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 I just didn't know when that coordination was going to take place, and I guess it's,
Some of it already has, due to Taylor West Weber has a water line project there. To go ahead and in that project, and they really got their utility through the West project. I think head without that was half of Taylor West.
Is this septic?
No, it's sewer.
Sewer.
Yeah, so
I see the sewer vacuum line is kind of up in the corner. Is there, from where you're building the house, there's slope and everything to get?
Yeah, so
over
we
to
have
it?
an existing sewer line that goes up that road, and that's the location that he's chosen that'll work best for his residents, and then he's providing an easement. Allows that. Have that.
So yeah, given the size of the lot, we're actually setting the house back, a couple hundred feet into the lot there. So it's just more convenient and makes more sense to put the sewer from that side.
Awesome. It'll be a nice house.
Nice lot for you back there.
Yes, I might add, that's 2.5 acres, I believe. I can't quite see it on could be down a lot smaller than that, so.
I think it's
Big lot on smaller zoning.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions for Mr. Austin?
I just had one question on item number 7. It talks about a resolution is required prior to the planning commission review of this subdivision. Has that resolution already, the city's seen that and everything's okay with that, Jared?
I don't have that memo in front of
So
me,
it
I'm
says the
sorry.
east boundary of lot 1, sorry, I'm trying. The east boundary of lot 1 and the existing fence at parcel 84101 do not appear to coincide. It will be the developer's responsibility to ensure that the plat does not result in a boundary dispute with the property owner to the east. A resolution is required prior to the planning commission review of the subdivision. Has that resolution with the property owner to the east taken place?
Those property lines would have been kind of looked at by Tracy in our survey. I dig in. Out.
Yeah,
Guess that.
we do have that boundary line agreement out with property that has.
Okay. Do we have a copy of that by chance, the city?
Get that over to you.
Is it on record with the city now? Do we have a copy
Yes,
in the
as far
city
as I'm
offices?
aware.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you, Steve. We appreciate your input.
Thank you, appreciate it.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here that would like to make comment regarding this Christensen Fairway subdivision?
Good evening. James Richards. Our property is at 65 West, right here on 4600 South. Our backyard, the property adjacent, is that particular property. We bought a home.
Wait, where, I'm sorry?
We're
Where's your
straight up
address?
Here on 46 South.
Yeah?
6035 West.
I think that might be the Whittison. Is there?
Are you talking?
Whittison subdivision, maybe? Sorry, so this is for the Christensen subdivision that's on 5500 West.
My backyard.
Are you talking about right?
6035
Okay. So
this is on 5500 West. So this is north of 4000, this subdivision that we're looking.
The item.
Not yet.
Next.
We're not yet. We'll be there next.
We're
You're not there yet?
Not
Oh,
quite.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
You'll have your turn. Thank you. Okay, regarding Steve Austin's Christensen Fairway subdivision, are there any other public comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll close public comment. Return it back here to commissioners. Do you have any other discussion? No?
Just making sure that we have that resolution on file with the city. That's the only thing that.
No other discussion, we'll entertain a motion on the request for Steve Austin's final plat review.
Okay, I'll make the motion that we that we recommend to the city council approval of the Christensen Fairway subdivision at 3870 South, 5500 West, with the recommendation that they just make sure we have the resolution referenced in item number 7 on file with the city.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Prince. Do we have a second on this motion?
I'll second it. I'll second it.
Okay, and we have a second from Commissioner Wilcox. I'm sorry, I didn't see who that was. All those in favor of approving this request?
Aye.
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 And that for approval to City Council. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the one that you want to talk about in a minute, okay? I'm sorry, I can't talk any louder. The next item is the final approval for the Whittison subdivision, 24 lots at approximately 6,000 west and 4,700 south. Do we have a presentation, Jared?
Yep, we have, so the property that discussion is highlighted in blue there. As you mentioned, it's kind of tucked off 100 West is that sub. As far as staff review memos, all of the items in the city staff memos have now been final plat and improvement drawings have been up. Final approval letters have been provided. Water. Other.
Okay. Thank you, Jared. Is there a representative here for the H&L subdivision? H&L Whittison subdivision?
My name is Alan Karras, K-A-R-R-A-S. My address 5419 South, 3275 West, Roy, Utah. Been working on this for quite a while. Meet all the requirements, building, et cetera, and we just ask would approval. If you've got any questions, be glad to answer them. Brought my backup.
Okay, and I didn't catch your name, sir, the last time around.
Jeremy Draper,
Jeremy
Reeve
Draper.
Associates for the record.
Okay. I have a question, Alan. On the preliminary plat that was presented, it showed a fence line going down through what you now show to be lots. By the way, I like the way you platted this out too. There was a fence line shown on the preliminary plat that went through lots 10, 13, kind of across the back of 16 and 17.
When I purchased this property, I purchased a portion of it from Whittison's and a parcel 3 acres from Mike Flick. That represents the boundary between them two, which I have now bought, own the entire parcel. And I've actually taken that fence down so you can take your racer and erase stuff.
No, it's not on the current plat. I was looking
Yeah,
on.
because
the
it was
preliminary
just
plat.
shown there because that was in 2 parcels when
Right.
we did the
And
preliminary.
we've noticed that the fence line, the fence is gone. When. The reason I'm asking this question is we had a public comment saying that they felt like the rezone was only approved for the Laurel Whittison property and not the Mike Flick.
The parcel that was brought in was for the entire parcel, both properties. The legal description that was brought in and the legal description that was filed with the zoning and the ordinance that was done was the entire property.
Okay, and I can see that there on the preliminary plat does go over the fence line. So that just is in response to a citizen's concern. So I wanted to
Oh, sure.
address it. Okay. So that's my only question.
Okay.
Is there any other questions? Jared, you're finished with your presentation. You have nothing more for us. Do we have, commissioners, do you have any more questions for Mr. Karras or Mr. Draper?
Addressed everything that the city requires. It's quite a pamphlet here.
Yes, it is.
You've been down this road a few times.
I have.
So parcel A is now the retention pond?
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, Jared, I might have missed it on here, but they got the fire marshal sign off on
Yes.
number of exits and all that.
Yep.
Down and do a hammerhead?
Yeah, that's what
Turnaround?
that's what Jared and the fire, isn't it you and the fire department that worked out on that they like that better than some of the other alternatives we've had?
Yeah, we tried a different As long as we can serve for the fire district.
That was kind of I think we experimented with a few things, and this is what the fire department seemed to like the best, and the residents have to
Yeah.
live with it after.
Well, honestly, I think I like that better than the cutting into the front yards to make the temporary turnaround. I like the
Sure.
hammerhead design. That's just my own.
It limits the
personal
lot a little
design.
bit, but these are big enough lots that we will not have a,
Will there be an HOA involved in this?
no.
Okay. So someone has to police the fact that that hammerhead turnaround does not become a free parking space for somebody's RV. And I'm not sure who's going to do that. Obviously, you, the developer, you'll be gone, long gone.
I think it falls under the same thing as somebody parking in front of a fire hydrant. We can't stop somebody from doing it, but we can sure ticket them for that.
Yeah.
So you may want to have a conversation with the sheriff as he drives around, and maybe that's something that he has to look at. I think that would fall under that same thing, wouldn't you think, Brandon?
Oh, yeah, I think if anybody's, violating a state statute or a city ordinance, we can enforce it that way. And we've done that elsewhere in the city.
So, yeah, mechanism in place to handle that.
Right. I just know that design is quite appealing to park your motorhome there. Where, it definitely can't be. It's like parking in a fire lane. But I realize that isn't anything that you have control over.
The easement will be recorded, obviously.
Right. And so.
And
then
I will try to do my best. We will probably build most of the homes in there, and we'll do our best to inform people.
Will you be selling any individual lots without a build job attached?
I don't know at this point in time, and the market is so crazy right now. I mean, I don't even know what the 2x4 is going to cost me tomorrow.
Yeah, I understand that. Okay. Like I said, I would like to compliment you on the way you laid this out, because I like the fact that we've got some bigger lots interspersed with the smaller
I'll pass it where
lots.
it goes.
Our civil engineer did a good
Yeah,
job,
engine.
because it does give variety. And that's what we want to see in our subdivisions, is variety.
I think it gives you the ground to the south of there ever develops. It gives it a good flow to it.
Mhm. Okay.
I just want to say thank you for making sure that you got all of these things addressed and taken care of. It's just nice to look down and see that there aren't any
I've been dealing with
messes
Jared
that
for a long time, and he's beat me many times for not
Well-
doing it. So in all seriousness, well, when we appreciate it too. We know it's a process to get through and pull our hair out sometimes, but we get to the end.
we appreciate it. So thank you for the work you put in to do that.
Mary, we good?
I believe so.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No? Okay, this is a public hearing. We have one letter to be read into the records, and then it'll be your turn, okay?
Okay, this one's from Rebecca Buck, 47 South, 6150 West, Hooper. I received the property owner notice for the H.L. Woodison subdivision going in directly behind my house. I have 3 areas of serious concern. The land that 10 of the lots sits on was not part of the Laurel Woodison land. It was not rezoned when Laurel Woodison land was rezoned. Laurel Woodison land was up for rezone. We were notified with a letter, and Laurel's land was specifically highlighted and the neighboring parcel was not. At the time, the Wendy Woodison Page land was not rezoned R2. I think it was still agricultural. As a property owner directly adjacent, I was not notified of any changes to that property. I recognize that it was part of a big picture plan for the subdivision, but it has not been properly rezoned. I recognize it was part of the big picture, but I was never notified. I have also checked with the neighbors. They were not notified. I recognize that a plan similar to this has been through the commission, but they skipped rezoning that plan specifically. This part of the development needs to be stopped immediately. The original plan we were sent was approved by the planning commission, and city council had a drainage pond. The space is now listed as parcel A and is mapped out just like the other lots. The Thomas Lowe subdivision has had drainage problems, and putting in 24 houses uphill of the existing subdivision with no drainage pond is negligent. There are too many lots. We were told in the beginning that since there wasn't a second exit for the subdivision, or really a first exit since it dumps into our subdivision, but there would be 24 houses. Please do not allow this many houses to have no option but to race through our quiet subdivision to get an actual road. This many houses needs to have access to 5900 West before the entire subdivision is completed. The next one is from Fran Ames. My understanding from the first meeting was the lots 1 acre. The surrounding community that this land backs up is mostly 1 acre and has horses and farm or other farm animals. The lots for this subdivision should be closed to 1 acre in keeping the surrounding community and to keep the rural intent of Hooper. To avoid possible issues later on, smell, animal noises, I am urging the city to require 1 acre lot.
Thank you. Other public comment here in the room or online?
I just, that map, it doesn't, Natalie's, doesn't have the hammer map.
At the very bottom,
Very
between the
bottom?
lots 11 and 12, there's the dotted line that shows it says turnaround easement. Okay. It's your turn. We need your name and address, please, sir.
Jim Richards, you want the address, 6035 West, 4600 South.
Okay.
Now, I am adjacent. I didn't have my hearing aid. I'm not sure, but evidently this was already approved where the rezoning was done, similar to item 5 that was being considered that was denied because the R1 to R2. That this has already been approved to R2 zoning.
You're correct. Yes, you're correct. This has been rezoned like a
It was
year and a half
August
ago.
of 2019.
We had just, we
I
bought
believe.
this.
August of 2019, it was rezoned.
Yeah, we purchased our house. And we moved out here because of 1 acre. And we have, Hooper was a pretty attractive area. So I understood that piece was going to be sold, but I'm in and out. But it looks to me like we have pretty much the same issues. Sounds like you basically approved everything. Prior meetings and so it might be too little too late. Add into smaller units, creating a problem that you were foreseeing in item number 5 as your rebuttal. R1 to R2. Because you wanted the integrity of Hooper and the 1 acre lot. Well, around and there's an example doing just the opposite. I'm pretty progressive in development issues. What's going on in this? I didn't anticipate a high density. And I believe just about everything around that piece is in the same situation. All acre lots. So I know in the past, whether it's Hooper or any place else, and you mix that into the middle, there's going to be issues that come to grips surrounding that with development. I mean, there's the obvious things that it sounds like you addressed it with the fire department in terms of access. But there's other good neighbor issues that I can't sit here and dictate they have to have. That's where you start getting the problem. I think, well, it's too late. You've rezoned it and they're reset. I know in other communities, in other places, density population. I think one of the best solutions is to put a, you can put a perimeter around the whole subdivision, somewhat encapsulate it so that you're not going to have any of these visual issues that could arise. It's going to eliminate that. Develop a little community within that area, and it's not going to intrude on and the other way around. I guess you've addressed all of pretty much all the other technical issues with drainage and everything else. But I think the biggest, what I was commending you folks, the way you handled item 5, what's happening right here. But evidently that took place probably several years.
Right.
So you laid the groundwork. Too bad I wasn't here to.
Okay. Well, we appreciate your comments, Mr. Richards. We appreciate you coming in and voicing your opinion. This subdivision was approved. I mean, it had its preliminary approval a year and a half ago, and the developer has been working on the problems and solving those. And now he's come back with a plat map that we can accept. So
I think about this seriously. Just because you've got all approvals doesn't mean you have to pull a trigger. I think I would feel most of the neighbors that are surrounding me would have to have some of the same feelings that I do, that me and my wife. And you're probably given opportunities to address those.
we've had several meetings, and we've had several people come in
Yeah.
and give us their opinions one way or the other. And we appreciate yours.
Right.
But at this point in time, I don't believe this train can be halted.
What?
I'm sorry.
So this train can't be halted. It's hard to stop a locomotive.
Well, the cards are dealt, and obviously the ball's gonna keep rolling, but I guess time will dictate what. Consider the perimeter.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment regarding the H&L Whittison subdivision? Anything online? None, okay. Seeing no other public comment, we will close that and return it back to our commissioners. Do you have any other questions, or any discussion?
That did kind of bring up a good question that I had about the dislike usage. Is there a fence going to be required along that southern border of this, Jared?
Southern border does between the ag and the residential, but not
correct. So that one does have a fence there. Okay.
Yeah, a land use separation fence, yes. One other question that was brought up in the Rebecca Buck, and Jared, I'm going to point this to you. There's one ingress egress in this development, and there's 24 lots. That is our limit, isn't it?
I believe the fire marshal's actually a little bit higher than that. I think after
30 lots? Is it 30 lots? Okay, I wasn't clear, and I wanted to clarify that because one of our citizens was concerned that there was only one ingress egress.
Right here, if you want to see it. But.
Right. Any other commissioner discussion?
I just wanted to point out that because I know the concern was raised about the parcel A taking the place of the detention pond, but that's the same. That is the detention pond. That's just what it's been labeled. So just for clarification, so that they know we addressed that.
Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, then I would entertain a motion on the request for a final approval for the Whittison subdivision.
I'll motion that we give or recommend final approval on the Whittison subdivision, 24 lots at 6,000 west and 4,700 south. Recommend it to City Council.
We have a motion from Commissioner Prince. Do we have a second?
Sorry, I've got one more question for Jared. No, never mind.
I'll second it.
No question. Okay. We have a second then from Commissioner Wilcox All those in favor of recommending approval to the city council for this subdivision, please manifest.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? This recommendation will go forward to the city council. Okay, the last item on our agenda tonight is the preliminary approval for Eagle Estate subdivision, which is a 34 lot development at approximately 4100 south and 5900 west. Jared, do you have a presentation for us?
You? Here's the view and approximate and shows of Eagle Estates. Proposed plat map of this is the preliminary plat approval and shows how Eagle Estates lays for all site.
Say that's preliminary approval for,
That's the overall site and just
the-
shows how it lays into the fire.
for the, okay, for the total acreage that's out there. Thank you.
And the plan review comments from staff. Division phasing process has not been followed as chapter 6. Portions of the lots and utilities are shown beyond the line provided by the developer. Wetland delineation boundary. Actually, construction beyond this line. Fire marshal will not approve the current. Yes. DOT has not given a application onto 50 West. Vacuum sewer does not work as has there been enough pipe. Yes. There are numerous questions and comments regarding plans that have not. Comments relate. Has received a copy of a letter from the Hooper Company. Comments and or provide a final will serve letter. Letter received by the city for water improvement. Application.
Okay. Do we have a representative here for?
For that, would you mind if I just jump in and just kind of go over a little bit of the city
Yes.
ordinance on this,
Thank
which
you.
may prove helpful. So for a subdivision preliminary plat approval such as this, typically, this is in our code 10-6-4.2. Typically require everything in the preliminary plat checklist submitted to the city prior to one of these types of items landing onto your agenda. Typically, what happens is the developer submits city staff, city engineer, to city public works, everything that's required in that ordinance that I just specified. If city staff determines that package is not complete, typically do not see item land onto your agenda. Reasoning behind that is probably obvious, but it is so that once the item lands onto your agenda, you can focus specifically on other things, layout, like sign, things like that, but not be stuck on whether or not checklist items have actually been submitted. The other thing, another provision in the ordinance discusses when our city engineer looks at the preliminary plat package that comes in, issue many times a memorandum or outline of questions. And the preliminary plat ordinance contemplates that a response would be received from the developer enough time for at least 10 days, city engineer review those responses to the comments and concerns prior to planning. That's also in our ordinance. The last thing I wanted to point out, what options that you have related to a preliminary plat request before the planning. So essentially you can do 4 things. You can recommend approval to the city council, recommend approval with conditions to the city council, and continue or table further study, or you can deny. First 2, the approval and the approval with conditions, got that, that's a recommendation. Those 2 go up to the city council, they make final decision. If you continue or table it, obviously that does not go to the council, that lands on a future agenda for you. You cannot continue an application without date, you have to continue it to a time certain. Okay, I'll come back to that one. Last one is a denial. So under our ordinance, deny it, you're not recommending a denial, you're denying it. That's where it stops. Unless in 15 days, the applicant requests a written appeal to the city council of that denial. In that case, if one of those comes in, lands on the city council agenda for denial. Within 15 days, a written request or appeal is not filed with the city. That constitutes the end of the process until a new preliminary plat is submitted, starts over. The last option I wanted to come back to was that request, a continuance or a tabling. And you may remember in other instances where a preliminary plat has come up and issues of concern arise, many times tabled meeting study. Those I only recommend doing if the developer in fact wants that. If the developer on the record wants a continuance or wants it to be tabled, I feel like that's. Otherwise, I recommend a final decision be made tonight, whether that be approval with conditions or a denial. Any questions on that? I just felt like a little summary of the ordinance might be.
Thank you. I appreciate that guidance. Commissioners, do you have any other questions for Attorney Richards?
For clarification,
Sure.
on your explanation of the continuing or tabling, if that's something that the developer wants, you said that that is time certain. We have to have a time set for that, right?
Right. So, sorry to cut you off. State code is such that you can't just continue something, and because then you're never giving a decision to the applicant. So you can't just say, well, we're going to table this. If you table it, you typically say, okay, we're going to put it on our agenda next month. See it in 3 months. You need to give a time certain because there needs to be a final decision made on the application at some point.
Clarify on the 4th action that can be taken, which is a denial, then the applicant still has 15 days to present in writing a request to be heard by the city council?
That's correct. Because in that instance, a denial on the preliminary plat request, that ends the city's involvement unless a written request, call it whatever you want, made to the city within 15 days, then it absolutely goes on to the city council agenda and they make a final decision. They act as a board or decision.
And does this only apply to the preliminary.
The plat or final or. So you remember on those, well, on the last two that you recommended, that was one of your options.
Okay, we appreciate that guidance.
Sure.
Jared, you finished with your presentation? Okay. Do we have a representative here from Eagle Estates?
Hi there, my name is Brent Bateman. I'm not a resident of the city. I'm actually an attorney with the law firm of Denton's, Durham, Jones and Pinnaker. I represent development. We're developing development here, and I would like to just, first of all, explain why I'm here and why I'm in, and talk a little bit about great advice we just got from Brandon. And also I'd like to say, if you guys don't know this guy, because he's been up to the podium 3 times today, this is Jeremy Draper, and he's also been working on our project. First of all, the reason why I'm involved, number one, is because I'm here to try to get this project approved. This has been a long time going. It's been 18 months since my client has been vested. And I want to get this project approved. And as I have told my client right at the beginning, that the way to get this project approved is to comply with the local ordinances. And that's what we've been working on doing since I've been involved. And we're going to try to get there because we want this project approved. Second reason why I'm involved is to sort of act as a buffer between my client and the city, because there has been some conflict in the past. And I am not going to bring conflict to the table. I'm going to bring productivity to the table. And the third reason why I'm involved is because I want to make sure this happens legally and the property rights are not violated. Having said all that, we appreciate the advice and the input that Brandon Richards gave. I have been doing land use law for more than 20 years. For 13 years, I was the state property rights ombudsman. I think I know a little bit about land use law, and I've worked with Brandon many times over the years, and he's given you good advice. We have addressed the things on that list. We acknowledge, however, that we did not get that to you until probably in time. So, as stated by Brandon, we would request a continuance to the next meeting so that we can come back, give you plenty of time to look at the submissions and the answers to the things on that list, and proceed at that time. We would very much appreciate that. Again, Jeremy is here. He has been the one working on getting that checklist taken care of. We feel like it has been taken care of. Everything has been addressed. He is, we're happy to answer questions right now about the progress that we've been made, and he is here to do that, but we do request that continuance. Thank you very much.
I could jump in. What I would recommend, and we've had this happen a couple of times, because we've noticed it up as a public. I think it's appropriate if the applicant wants a continuance, and he has stated on the record, that's what I was looking for. I think it's totally appropriate to do that. I want to give them every opportunity to meet our ordinance requirements. At the same time, since we've noticed this up as a public hearing, I recommend that you open it up, allow anyone in the public make their comments. Otherwise, continue it, have to notice it as a. We're not required to do public hearings on that.
If I could just respond to that. If we're going to have the public hearing today, that's fine. Just as long as, like you suggested, we don't, reinvent the wheel and try to do it again at the next meeting. One meeting or the other is, I think, what's appropriate and what the law supports. And the second comment I'd like to make is just like to remind everybody what the question is here that we're here to answer. The question that we're here to answer is not whether or not this development is popular, or whether my client is a good guy, or whether or not we want to see this. The question we're here to answer is whether or not this development complies with the law. So as public comment comes up, please try to keep that in mind, right? If someone can point out how it doesn't comply with the law, let us know, we'll address that. Okay? But that's the question that we have, and there's a lot of people still in the room, so I assume there's going to be a lot of public comments. So if we're going to go with that, that's fine. But this is not a popularity contest, and this is not a we don't like this development contest. Question whether or not it complies.
Fair enough.
I've got a question.
Sure.
You know, you stated you want to comply with ordinances and the law.
Correct.
So why is there construction going on right now when you do not have permission to do so?
We have done nothing that requires a permit at this point. And we've been careful to do nothing that requires a permit. A lot of things are going to require a permit, and at that point, when it requires a permit, we will have the permit before we do it. But this is our property, and we're just doing things on it, nothing that requires a permit.
Can I ask a question just of Brandon? As far as the public hearing, so if this is tabled and it comes back to the commission, will the public have an opportunity to comment on that based on what they present at that time? Because if things have changed, I feel it's only fair for people to be able to look at what's happening currently and comment on that. Right now, they may have different concerns based on what was already submitted, but if what that submission changes, those concerns may change. So I'm just concerned.
Right, and that's a good question. I think what I'm mostly concerned about is the requirement to notice it up and have public hearing on this. That's been noticed up. And I mean, I do agree with Mr. Bateman, it's public comment. And so public comment, it doesn't mean respond to the public comment, it's just hear the public comment. If there's somebody that wants to make a public comment, they've got their public comment. Your question, if at the next meeting somebody wants to make a comment, I think as you analyze the plat submitted, I think anything that helps you get to the point of determining whether it meets our requirements or not is okay. But he's right. And I think you recognize, I don't think you need to be told that. I mean, if it's our ordinance, it's approved. I've never seen this body ever deny somebody who met all of our ordinance requirements. That goes with.
A great point about the public comment, by the way. I don't know that whether or not it's legal is going to change from today to next time, but I'll leave it to your hands. You can decide either way.
I have one concern. I got a few texts on, you know, your activities out there. What are you doing to mitigate the dust? I know of 4 people in that neighborhood who are dealing with life-threatening cancer, and it's brought to my attention that it's been a problem. So in the daytime, it seems like you are, but at night, you know, so what are you doing, or what can you do, or what will you do to prevent that?
I don't know that we've done anything extraordinary to mitigate the dust up to this point, but we're willing to take efforts to do that.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Because once you take the vegetation out, it's dust, you know, and
well, that's right. And that
accentuates the problems.
You know, we definitely want to get going quickly, but we can take efforts to do that and to minimize the possibility that dust will even arise. We don't mind doing that. That's fine. We just need to move forward. Like I said, this has been 18 months that we've been vested, and this is the first time we've been in front of in this meeting here. I'm not looking and pointing necessarily at the city because of that, though I do think the city is contributed to that. I do think that maybe folks on my side have contributed to that. There has been definite delays, and there has been definitely, I will say, violations of the law up to this point that have caused these delays. But here we are finally after 18 months, and so we need to get going. We have financing and other issues. That's why we started work there. But the dust is a real concern, and it's a health and safety concern, and we are not interested in endangering anybody's health. So we will do what we can.
I just had a question on the packet here. It talks about how the proposed intersection does not meet city ordinance 10-6A-11G. I was wondering if you could elaborate on that, Brandon, of maybe what that is.
Good. I don't know if we need to do it. If we're going to go down the route of continuing it, let's continue it. Let's hear the public comment and let's continue it if that's what.
My client just whispered in my ear, by the way, that we do have water trucks out there and SWIP permits are all posted. And approved, you know, all the SWIP permits have been approved, but we'll increase our efforts for sure. It does.
Right. So I think what would be appropriate based on, I want to be clear, this is based on the applicant's request. So we
Looks like
can
we have several people here that,
respect that. But yes, I would say hear the public comment, anybody who wants to comment. And my suggestion would be on public comment, because it's difficult to have a discussion on it as it sits at this point and then come back a month and totally different. You have to have a discussion. I would suggest you hear the public comment, continue it a month, get into it all night if
Thank you.
thank you for your time. Appreciate it. As our attorney has said, this is a public hearing and we have a few letters. Looks like Shauna's got a few to read into the record, and then we'll open it up for public comment, both online and people in the room.
Okay, my first public comment is from Lori Wilcox. Greetings, I have specific comments regarding Keystone Land Development for a new subdivision at approximately 4100 South, 5900 West, SR 37, known as Eagle State Subdivision. This is item number 5 on the Planning Commission agenda. I understand that this developer is proposing 34 homes to be built within the subdivision. I was under the impression that that when Hooper City opened up the general plan, if it wasn't approved prior to the plan reopening, nothing was going to be approved until the general plan was finalized. If this is not the case, then the Planning Commission should have let the residents of Hooper that information, should have let residents Hooper that information. If it is a legal issue, then the Planning Commission should have talked to the city attorney beforehand to ensure that it was able to approve the moratorium that was discussed at the meeting. My various concerns are as follows. How big will each lot be? I would hope that these would be at least a half acre or more. I've only seen the plot layout and have concerns regarding the entrance and the exit of the subdivision. The bend in the road is already a major risk factor. I constantly see people speeding around the corner and would hate to see a severe accident at that location. Has the state approved the entrance/exit to the subdivision? How is it going to affect our water and sewer systems? Will it put them even more strain on our vacuum sewer system beyond current use? Will the lots be on secondary water or irrigation water? How will they land? How will this affect our town's drinking water? How will this affect our local schools? Will this cause more strain on our class size? Will there be a crosswalk with flashlights to put in close to the subdivision for children to walk to and from school if needed? Will sidewalks be installed along 5900 West, SR 37, to accommodate the safety of the children walking to and from school? 34 lots with the family moving will impact various things, including road safety and infrastructure for Hooper. Will emergency services be able to accommodate the additional proposed 34 lots? Will our roads now need even more improvement due to the new traffic? How will this affect the farmland around the subdivision? How is this proposed development rural in nature, and how does it respect land use patterns of the past and present? How does this proposal provide an ample open space? Will this affect our taxes? Will this subdivision keep our community values such as heritage, small town feel, and multi-generational? I do not like new development in our beautiful town, especially of this size. I do, however, understand that growth is inevitable, but it needs to be done correctly. I would like to see Hooper remain small and multi-generational. Hooper is the town I choose for my family to grow up in, and specifically for the small town, the safety, the heritage, and the history. I hope the Planning Commission will wholeheartedly review this matter and address the concerns mentioned above. I would also hope that the Planning Commission is in fact keeping with the planning survey opinions that citizens of Hooper have already responded to. If not, when and why are they requesting citizens? Thank you for your time and consideration, Lori Wilcox. Next is Phil Douglas. What work has been to address traffic hazards on the bend of 4,000 South and 5,900 West, bend prone to bad traffic and accidents? Developments to the north, east, and now west and south have far exceeded the design for safe egress and ingress to the neighborhoods surrounding this new proposed development. Traffic has increased dramatically in the area. The bend is not safe for vehicles entering or leaving 4,000 South or 5,900 West. Have archaeological impacts for the possible native burial grounds been explored? Hooper historian John M. Belknap, History of Hooper, indicated 3,200 Native Americans frequented that area. There have been reports of Native artifacts and even human remains being found in the area. Has the Northern Shoshone tribe been approached about possible impact? Bill Douglas. Next is by Scott Moore. My wife and I own the property west of the proposed Eagle Estate subdivision. I am very concerned about drainage to the southwest corner of our subdivision. Development of lots 18 and through 21 will have severe negative impacts on existing wetlands and drainage. The natural flow of water from properties on the south and the west side is into the ponds and slough that drain to the northwest. Disturbing the natural water flow will cause flooding on my property from irrigation water and any excessive precipitation. I would like to hear what the plan is for handling the drain in the area. Next by Sandy Simpson. More lots than approved for last developer for the zoning changes. More traffic on 5900 West. Not enough water for the number of lots. Questions about sewer. No permits for any of the work currently being done. Dangers of the curve in the road, 4000 South to 5900 West. Where is the water going to drain? New 4000 South Road, using corral for the slaughter area several times a week. Next one is by Dirk Bailey. Because of the close proximity of the proposed subdivision and another proposed subdivision east, we would request that the intersection on the curve be addressed with UDOT to make the area safer for all vehicles using that road. The two proposed subdivisions will add a lot of additional traffic, and now is the time to work on things for everyone's safety. The west end of the proposed subdivision has a pond that absorbs the drains and drains irrigation wastewater and stormwater. There are 2 or more agricultural drain fields and have drained into that pond for more than 30 years. It is critical that the pond approximate water level be maintained so that the field drains function properly. Drains keep the farm ground prime for raising excellent crops and are vital for quality farm ground. If the water level of the pond is to be raised, the field drains would not function. Next, Robert and Diane Widdison. We received a letter from Hooper City dated March 29th, 2021 regarding a request from Keystone Land Development for a new subdivision at approximately 4100 South, 5900 West in Hooper, Utah. Following are our concerns and comments to be considered at the public meeting to be held April 8th, 2021. Why is this contractor being allowed to do work on the property prior to approval for the subdivision? Is the contractor going to force Hooper to approve the subdivision with a threat of a lawsuit because of the money and work already invested? We have watched a lot of activity with pipes being buried southwest and west of our home. Has any inspection or approval taken place prior to the pipes being buried? We do not want a drainage issue because of the neglect of the contractor not doing prior work to approval and inspection of proper drainage. We have also watched a lot of activity with road construction south and southwest of our home. As the state of Utah granted a right-of-way access of the subdivision to the location, it is closer to the 5900 West and 4000 South curve than the right-of-way access roads that have been denied by the state of Utah for being unsafe. There are already a lot of trucks that impede the traffic on 5900 West from this developer. A good share of Hooper residents still do not have sewer connected. Why are these subdivisions fast-tracked to the head of the line? Shouldn't we take care of Hooper residents first? We have enough secondary water and culinary water to supply the subdivision and others to the north end of Hooper. 2/3 of the lots are only 100 feet of frontage, while 2 lots are less than 90 feet of frontage and 1 lot is less than 95 feet of frontage. What is the right-of-way allowance for the frontage? Is proper consideration and protection being taken for wetlands on this property? We love this community and know that we must develop wisely. We want to have a wonderful community in 20 to 50 years. When Nate Brockbank purchased this property, he talked to the neighbors and asked about concerns. Mr. Alder has done none of that. Thank you for your consideration. Robert and Diane.
Just one clarification. My wife did not write that. I don't know who did. Someone put her name, which is okay. They said good stuff. What was there? Oh, okay. All right. No, I just said, did you write that?
Okay. Shauna, are there any other people online who would like to comment before we come to the people in-house? Okay, seeing none, then we're going to open up to public comment for those people in attendance to this meeting. If you have something to say, you need to limit your comments to please 3 minutes and give us the facts.
My name is Brink Wasserline. My house is in that picture. 4166 South, 5900 West, directly across the street from where that subdivision would be entering and leaving 5900 West. I would just want to say perception is reality. And to have a preliminary approval meeting when construction is happening and by their own admission, their package isn't even ready yet. They shouldn't even be on the agenda, according to your attorney. What's the reason for moving this so fast? So my recommendation would be just to deny it. Make them start over again. Wasting my time. I just sat there for 2 hours to find out that this is going to be tabled and we're going to talk about it again. It's aggravating. It seems like it got fast tracked. It's not ready yet, and they're already moving on it, and that's frustrating. So I don't have any questions. Make those comments. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your comments. Other people in the room who would like to comment? Step forward and state your name and address, please.
Buick, 5067 South, 5300 West. I agree with, that's your name, I'm sorry, but I agree with him. They've had plenty of time to do this. The attorney spoke of, they can't get this done in 18 months, problem. For everything that read, Shauna just read, there are a lot of problems with this development going on. I think a lot of things have not been inspected. There's pipes that are being buried. Has anybody been out to inspect? Bernie says they're doing everything legally, calling you a liar, but I'm asking the council, has anybody inspected anything?
Well, I can respond just generally because I feel like there's going to be a lot of comments that are very similar. Whatever work done out there, and absolutely with zero permit, zero inspection by the city. The city is aware of what's going on out there, monitoring it. No, there has been no inspections and no.
I find that to be very concerning. I just would like to reiterate everything that Sean has read to us, and I would agree with the gentleman before me. I would deny this development, make them start over. There's too many questions out there. We haven't even looked at the pipes. We haven't looked at what they're done. We haven't, verified what they're saying, as we all know very well. It was painful. We did a field trip not very long ago, Mayor, and we drove around and we looked at a couple of things that have been done that developers just kind of sneak in there, and it's making Hooper look like West Haven or Roy or Clinton. It was done very poorly, and I think that we should just flat out deny this and make them come back when they have all their ducks in order. Right now, there's just too many questions out there.
Come forward, please.
Hi, Dennis Weston. I live on 4200 South, just east of development. Spent 3 terms on the city council and many terms on the Hooper Township Planning Commission. But the development is, going on in Hooper, and we're excited for new neighbors, new people coming in. So there's nothing that. The concern I have is, Wilcox talked about it. I have a wife with stage 4 metastatic cancer, which has spread to her lungs. Since this development has been started and it's been unsupervised, uninspected, the dust problem has created a situation where she can't even go outside, even with a mask, because it's complicating her breathing. I would like to see some oversight on the dust control, whether it comes from the Weber County Health Department or if they, I don't see no silt or dust screens anywhere, piles of dirt that are exposed to the wind, and with the storms we've had lately, the dry conditions, it compounds and creates a problem. So, you know, I have no problem, no worry about more people moving in Hooper, because that's going to happen. But with the way this has been approached with no oversight, I'm very concerned that, you know, the owner and the developer and his attorney are all taking personal responsibility for health conditions if they're not following the health department rules. And so I would like to see something done on that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Are there any other public comments in the room tonight? Okay, seeing none, then we will close this public comment portion of the meeting and bring it back here to the commissioners for discussion.
Sorry. As far as what Mr. Weston was just referring to your knowledge, are there any health department rules that are being broken right now with this, or?
I mean, I'll say this, it's concerning if there's dust it's out of control. And so I think that's a comment that's very well taken, and I think it should be looked into further, and I think the city should look into that, whatever we can do to help with that, I think would be appropriate.
And in your professional opinion, you mentioned that you would advise tabling this. My understanding is if we deny it, they can appeal it to the city council, and we haven't had a chance to really look at everything. So we really don't know what we're pushing through, possibly, with the idea that the city council will look at something we have not seen and could possibly approve it. So with tabling it, we would be able to at least look at what we're dealing with.
That's a good point. There's two sides to tabling it. Obviously, the applicant wants it tabled. Do whatever they want to do in the interim. They have it actually discussed by the commission. But that's a good point as well. The flip side of that is if you denied it, that in my view necessarily just means that it's going to move up to the city council. Probably be different, somewhat, maybe a lot, than what you've seen in the memo and whatnot. And so you maintain a certain amount of control on your end. It's not just entirely doing what the developer wants, it's also maintaining control of the commission, make an informed decision when it comes back in a month. That being said, I also can sympathize with the fact that we don't want to keep continuing this on and on and on. At some point, the benefit to the commission to do what you just mentioned maybe reaches a limit, and you decide what the applicant wants. We don't want to continuing this. I feel like one request for a continuance is reasonable. It gives the applicant the opportunity to comply with our ordinances, and on the flip side, it allows you to be able to see a fully submitted preliminary act. That's the basis for my suggestion. Of course, you have the ultimate say on it.
Thank you. Discussion?
I personally like the idea of being able to see what we're moving forward, and not that a denial is moving it forward, but that does take out our ability to see what's being presented. And I think with something like this, there's been a lot of public comment. I think there are some very valid concerns that need to be addressed, and I think that's why we have a planning commission as well as city council, so that I think the more eyes we can have on this, the better. That would be my opinion.
Looking at the memo that was presented here, the first 5 items on the memo. Number one, it's a 34-lot subdivision, and our ordinances say that 25 lots is the maximum per phase, and this has got 34 lots in it, so that's non-compliant. Many of them are within the wetlands area, which is also, in my opinion, non-compliant. this many lots needs 2 ingress and egresses. It only has 1. So that's non-compliant. Secondly, the one egress that appears as if they're digging is non-compliant with our ordinance because it's not 800 feet from either intersection. And so it creates a safety issue. So where that road is, where they're digging on their lot right now, that appears as if it might be what they want to put in for a road, is a safety issue. And the 5th item regarding the vacuum sewer, the memo says that it cannot be served by the existing vacuum sewer system. So we need some kind of a plan to show how we're going to allow these people to flush their toilets, basically, because the vacuum sewer system can't serve that right now. So there's a lot of things that need to be addressed here.
Which leads me to my question is why is this on our agenda today with so many issues? Do you know, Brandon?
I do know what I'll say that on the agenda at request of the developer. That's why it's on your agenda.
So it's not like, I mean, the lawyer was trying to imply that the city was basically up to nefarious acts preventing it or something like that, when clearly this is not the normal operation method, right?
Right, and I'm not going to speak comments made about acts or anything like that in an open. No, this is on your agenda. Request from the developer onto your agenda, on your agenda. That being said, now it's very apparent that they would like to have continuance, but everything and address the questions that you have, and I request, at least right now, see what happens.
And I would say that a one-time continuance might be reasonable, since this is the first time it's come around to us, and they have a whole laundry list of things that need to be made right. And if we as a body here tonight flat deny it, then they do have the right to take it up to the city council, and then we don't see
I mean, I agree. I just think it's weird that they push
let
so
it out of
hard.
our hands yet.
I just think it's weird they push so hard to have it on the agenda to then ask for a continuance, but I'm in agreement that that's Brandon's recommendation. I think that's what we do.
Our next commission meeting is on May 13th. Is 1 month sufficient?
I suggest put it out 1 month.
I'm okay with that. And then we'll see what happens. I mean, there are a lot of concerns, so.
That's the stand that we as a planning commission and basically the Housing Authority of Hooper has taken, is that when things are presented to us, they're complete. There's no contingencies, there's no subject tos, there's no, okay, we'll get that. It's complete or it's not. And if it's not, it doesn't come to us.
He's coming back up, so I'll just ask him, what is the plan for you guys doing work out there over the next month? Are you going to continue to do, moving dirt, or are you going to?
The reason why I just came up here is to let you know that I think I've persuaded my client to back off on the work.
Awesome.
Focus on the dust control. So I think that's a fair thing to alleviate concerns. We don't want any concerns. And as I said before, we're asking the continuance is because we want to comply. Feel like we just need time to show you. Yeah.
Is 1 month enough?
1 month.
I
will do
should
it.
ask you, is that what you want?
1 month is fine.
I'll motion. Are you
okay? With the end of our discussion here, we would entertain a motion now regarding this preliminary approval for Eagle Estate subdivision.
I will motion for a continuance until our next planning commission meeting on May 13th, 2021, for the preliminary approval of Eagle Estate subdivision, 4100 South and 5900 West.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion to table this. No, you're fine. You're good. It is late. We do have a motion to table this for 1 month. I would strongly encourage you to bring back a complete packet because everybody's time is wasted. So the motion is to table it for 1 month, and we have it seconded by Commissioner Wilcox. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's a unanimous vote. This item is tabled until May. We do have an opportunity for any citizens here, if they'd like to bring up new business or make a public comment. I'll open it up for just a minute. You got 3 minutes.
Day 89 South 6. And when they developed the property south or north, they had them install a nice fence to separate our agriculture. Charge of homeowners that bought the property, they see us.
Taking care of the fence.
Yeah. So it's in bad repair, but no one knows who owns it.
It would depend on whose property the fence lies.
Right on
I
the
know.
property line. Fence in before they bought it, and we didn't.
It may be something that staff might have to. But if you
Yeah.
wanted to come and talk with the front office, of the city, might be able to help.
All right.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay, then this meeting would be adjourned if someone would make that motion.
Sorry, can I make one more comment?
Okay.
Is that all right? I just want to encourage everybody, just a reminder that we currently have survey number 2 out for the revision on the general plan that we're working on. And it's really, really important that you take the time to fill that survey out. You can fill it out. It was mailed out to each household. You can also go online. Please encourage your neighbors to let their voice be heard. We really do want to hear what the people in the community want, and that will really help us in shaping what we're doing in the future. So that's all.
And there's the maps back there that need reviewed comments on as well.
Yes, those maps back there help to explain what we're trying to do or kind of what the vision is. And there's comment cards. We would really appreciate getting comments from our citizenry. And those will be up until the 15th of April, I believe, or maybe a little bit later. You're welcome to come in here during office hours and look at the maps and make your comments. That being said, I would entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I'll motion that we adjourn.
And
I will second.
this meeting is adjourned.